G'day fellow moto vloggers, Bandit Nev on Ruby the Suzuki Bandit on this Saturday afternoon around 1:45. Taking Ruby for a ride out, which she hasn't been on for a while because I've been in hospital and so on and so forth, the weather being not that great before, and me being in hospital, and today I feel a bit better than what I have been after my procedure. So I'll get onto that in a second, but there's something I wanted to share with you all, a bit of a mistake I made. It cost me $189. Well, what happened was I needed a new battery in my key fob for the car, so I went out and bought a new battery for the key fob so I can lock the car and unlock the car, etc, etc, and unlock the boot. And I had a look on YouTube, and there was a chap that had done a video on how to open it up. It wasn't hard at all, and I replaced the battery, which was a CR1616. Now that's an odd number, so I had to actually get that from a watchmaker, so to speak, or a watch person that puts batteries in watches and that, and luckily I know someone that's got a little place, and yeah, you can have one for $5, that's alright. So anyway, I've replaced that, and while I was replacing it on the kitchen table, I was once I'd replaced the batteries and put it all back together, and I tested it out, and it looked a lot brighter when you press the button on the little red LED that they got on there to show you that it's working. And I touched the open, the lock, the boot, and that sort of thing, and thought, well, yep, another good job done. Saved myself a bit of money there, getting it all fixed up and or done by someone. Would have cost me double that at least. And just got to get across this road. I'm heading out to Two Worlds, actually, my little Two Worlds ride. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, I'd fitted the battery and everything was working okay, and I got up the next morning and had to go somewhere in the car and turned the car over, and it was a little bit sluggish, and the dash lights went out and all that sort of thing, and I panicked a bit. I thought, oh shit, me bloody car battery's dying, because we've had a couple of really cold mornings, and if they're going to fail, they're going to fail on either cold mornings or at the beginning of the cold winter, or at the beginning of the hot summer. So anyway, I thought, oh bugger. So anyway, the car started, and I went up to a Autobahn and had a look how much the battery was, and they had them on special for $189, and this is the one for your car, blah blah blah, we'll fit it for free. So I said, yep. Alright, and I noticed that there was a little indicator in my dash that wasn't going out when I was driving. Anyway, they put the battery in, and I started the car up, and the little indicator in the dash was still there, and the bloke that put the battery in couldn't work it out either. But then he went and opened my boot up, and it wasn't locked, and promptly shut it. So anyway, I didn't think any more of that, and the light went out, of course. So I was talking to my cousin. He said, you should have got the RAA to do it, because they check the battery before they put a new one in. and they check to see if there's any leakage, like any lights draining the car battery whilst your key is off. And then it struck me that, could it be that I actually accidentally opened the boot and the boot light was on all night? And a friend of mine says, well, the only way you're going to try that is to see if that is so. Put your phone in there on record, shut the boot, open the boot and see if the light comes on, or it doesn't come on until you open the boot properly. So I did that. No, as soon as the boot cracks, the the light's on. So I thought to myself, oh bugger, that there's probably nothing wrong with that battery. So I've gone out and bought another battery for absolutely nothing, because I panicked, because I was going away for the weekend and all that, and I didn't want to have any issues while I was away, and I'd have to get to hospital and I have to get to doctors, and anyway, there's a lot on my mind, and I made a mistake. I know it's a long drawn out story, but just be careful there, folks, because if you got one of these key fobs, this one is so powerful it went through the house windows into the shed and unlocked the bloody boot. Whereas on my older car that would never have happened, because it just didn't have the range, but this one has got a lot better range. So on to the next subject. I went into hospital Tuesday morning at 10:30 for a after 1 o'clock procedure, and I got in there and got, you know, they get you ready for the theatre and all that sort of thing. You go in there and you lay there, and it's a pretty spooky sort of place, and they said put this over your mouth and hold it there and take a few deep breaths, and you'll be off into the Never Never Land. So I did, and it did taste awful. It did taste awful, but I only took about 2 or 3 deep breaths and that was it. I was out. Next thing I was waking up in the post-operative area, where they bring you around and make sure you're okay before they send you up to the ward. So I goes up to the ward, and I'm sort of laying there, and they come up and they test your vitals, and I'm hooked up to like 2 saline bags, so it flushes out my bladder, because they had to scrape cancer off my bladder, and that washes your bladder out. And of course I had the catheter again, which is very, very unpleasant, I must admit. And in the morning, the doctors normally do their rounds, and he come in and said, I'm happy with what we did. We scraped it, and we didn't need to put any chemo into the bladder or anything like that. We'll send it off to the lab for testing and see how we did with what we cut out, and we probably won't know any more for a couple of weeks. So if you don't hear from us after 2 weeks or whatever, you'll be booked in for a cystoscopy in 3 months' time. And I thought, well, gee, I hope everything's okay. And they got it all. So that means I just have to have a cystoscopy in 3 months' time. But if there's anything untoward, well, they'll let me know. But the experience in hospital, the hospital staff were marvellous. I wouldn't say the patients were that good in there. The one next to me, he was probably more 45-ish, and he was I think he was an invalid pensioner, and what he'd done was he was fucking around, excuse the expression, on his quad bike, tried to go through a closed gate and come off, and fractured a few ribs, and he was moaning and groaning, carrying on like a pork chop, as if he's the only one that's ever come off a quad bike or a bike and hurt themselves. And anyway, about 9:30 that night, Tuesday night, they put all the lights out and that, so you can go to sleep. And this bloke next door, he started snoring, folks. And I swear to God that I've never ever heard anyone so loud snoring in all my life. It was absolutely terrible. And the only reprieves that I had was at midnight, when they take your ops, that's your blood pressure, your heart rate and all that, they do every 4 hours, and at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's the only reprieve I had of this bloody snoring. It was absolutely disgusting, and he needs to have that looked at, because I think he's got something badly wrong somewhere. Yeah, this has been a little bit of a long vlog, but I can't really help it because I've been laid up for a while and there's so much I want to talk about and let you guys know. Yeah, so in the meantime, they said I had to stay in overnight, which I thought I would anyway, and they said you can't go home until you've been in here for 24 hours in the ward. Because I had no one at home to look after me or anything, I had to stay there till 3:30, which wasn't a problem. I did that, and I went home, and they sent me home with the catheter and the bag strapped to the leg, and I had to ring up the district nurse association so they could come in the morning and take the catheter out, because the doctor wanted the catheter in for an extra 12, 14 hours or whatever it might be. So that was very uncomfortable. I sort of coped with it a fair bit, but so then anyway, the next thing is the nurse comes at 7:45 the next morning and takes the catheter out, which stung a bit, of course. That's a reasonable price for petrol. And she gave me this chart, and I had to write down from 8 o'clock to midday how much I'd drunk and how much I'd peed. So I had a cup. Every time I had to pee in this cup and write down how much I got out, how much I drank. I had to drink about 2 litres, I think, of water. Anyway, at midday she came, and she gets the I don't know what it is, it's a machine that can tell how much wee is in your bladder, and she said, yeah, that's fine, that's going all well. And she had a look at my chart and she said, well, it looks like your bladder started going fine, and you just don't worry about measuring anymore and just drink as normal as possible. I'll come back at 4 o'clock and see how it is then. So she come back at 4 o'clock, and yep, everything's alright. So I don't have to do any more measuring and drinking a lot and all that sort of thing. So that's about it, folks. I know it's been a long one and you probably haven't listened to the end. I know it's pretty tough when they're long videos, because I watch a lot of long videos and I know how hard it is. I normally stream them to the telly so I can watch them on the telly. So anyway, Bandit Nev on Ruby the Suzuki Bandit here in Two Wells, bidding you all very, 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 very safe riding, and until next time, cheers for now.